Of course, always 3D, again we need to deal with the 6 strains and 6 stresses, a complex one. So we move from 3D to 2D because all structures are not practically 3D structures, but if the dimension, for example, if we say line has breadth and depth, but the breadth and depth are negligible comparing with the length. So we treat the line as one-dimensional geometry. In a similar fashion, structures also we can treat it as a one-dimensional structure, 2D structure, or 3D structure. That means if any one dimension in any one direction is negligible comparing with, so we can reduce the complexity in the computation. So we are moving from 3D to 2D. Right. In case of this, if you look at this, the stresses in the third direction, sigma 3, tau 13, and tau 23 are all 0. But as far as the strains are concerned, only gamma 23 and gamma 13 are 0. For epsilon 3, assuming the epsilon 3 is absolutely wrong, because epsilon 3 we cannot ignore it, it is there due to the sigma 1 and sigma 2 effect. So when we move from 3D to 2D, we can keep the S matrix as it is. That is compliant. We can keep the compliance matrix as it is. We can in the compliance matrix we can give up third row, third column, fourth row, fourth column, fifth row, fifth column. Compliance matrix is very simple. So reduced compliance matrix. But when we see the stiffness matrix, it is not exactly we cannot leave those rows and columns because epsilon 3 effects are there. We cannot assume the epsilon 3 as 0 because epsilon 3, as we have seen in this slide, is contributed by both sigma 1 and sigma 2. So that if we consider that effect, then the reduced C matrix, we give the new name called Q matrix. We give the new name called Q matrix. As far as the S matrix is concerned, it is the same letter S. Whether it is 3D or 2D, it is the same letter S. But as far as the stiffness matrix, that is the C matrix is concerned, if it is 3D, it is C. If it is 2D, we give the new name called Q matrix, where Q is the reduced stiffness matrix. Right. So we cannot write like this. Reduced stiffness is Q. So we cannot we cannot use the C. Right. So we can include thermal effect as well as the moisture effect. We can write it. Right. Now we move to the next discussion. For example, if the fiber alignment or the reinforced alignment, say for example, this is the x-axis, this is the y-axis, and if the fiber alignment, it makes an angle of theta with the x and y, it makes an angle of theta with the x and y, then we must be careful. If the fiber direction and the x direction are one and the same, then there is no issue. But if the fiber is aligned at an angle of theta with x or with y, then we use two terms. The fiber direction are called as on-axis direction. We use the letters 1, 2, and the conventional Cartesian coordinates direction, we use the term off-axis direction, that is x and y. So fiber direction, we use the term on-axis 1, 2. Cartesian coordinates direction, off-axis direction, we use the x, y, we use the term off-axis, right? So if there is if the theta is 0, then there is no issue. But if the theta is not 0, then we have to find the suitable transformation. It is simple. It is something like a kind of exercise what we have undergone in Mohr circle discussions. all of us, we have undergone such discussions or such a task in the isotropic materials. It's a similar kind of discussions. So like a balance of force, sigma F equal to 0 concept is used here. So if we follow that, and finally we get this, where sigma 1, sigma 2 and tau 1, 2, these are all on axis stresses. Sigma x, sigma y and tau xy off axis stresses. And the connectivity matrix is called as a transformation matrix. It is T sigma, where m refers the cos theta and n refers the sin theta. If theta is 0, sigma 1 is same as sigma x, sigma 2 is same as sigma y, and tau 1, 2 is same as tau xy if theta is 0. If theta is not 0, then these two stresses are different. Similar task or similar exercise that is carried out for strain also. But in case of strain, it is purely geometric and there is no material or balance of force involved. And if we conclude, I mean, as far as the strain transformation is concerned, we get this is the on-axis strain and this is the off-axis strain, and this is the connectivity matrix. The connectivity matrix, we give the new name T epsilon. We have given T sigma for stress transformation matrix. We give T epsilon for the strain transformation matrix. So with that, right. And why it is required, why this transformation matrices are required, you may recollect for material property matrix, we use the terms Q and S, where Q refers the reduced stiffness matrix and S refers the reduced compliance matrix. So we have used. So this Q and S are applicable only to directions 1 and 2, that is the fiber direction. And for example, what is Q and S for the Cartesian coordinate directions, that is X and Y directions, right? So if so, then we have to do one exercise. So for example, Q bar and S bar are such matrices for off axis direction. That is, Q bar is the reduced stiffness matrix for off axis and S bar is the reduced compliance matrix for off axis. If theta is 0, Q is same as Q bar, S is same as S bar. If theta is not 0, Q is different from Q bar, S is different from S bar. Right. And this is one such exercise. From this exercise, we can find out what is S bar. I think this slide will help us to find out what is S bar. So these are all the S bar components, and this is the T epsilon, and this is T sigma, and this is S. Again, if theta is 0, S bar is same as S. If we follow the similar exercise for Q and Q bar, we get this. Q bar equal to T sigma, T sigma inverse Q and T epsilon. And again here also, if theta is 0, Q bar and Q are same, right? And we could find one difference between the isotropic and say orthotropic or anisotropic material. In case of the Q bar and S bar, this Q16, Q26, or Q61 and Q62, these are all 0. Similarly in S matrix also. But as far as the off-axis components are concerned, these are all not 0. We call this 16 and 26 as normal coupling terms, and 61 and 62 as shear coupling terms. So this is the difference we could find in the Q bar, Q and Q bar, S and S bar, right? And the similar fashions, of course, if we use this, we could find what is the Young's modulus in the x direction, where E1 is the Young's modulus in the direction 1 and Ex is the Young's modulus in the direction x. If the direction x and direction 1 both are same, Ex equal to E1. That means the theta is 0, then Ex equal to E1. If theta is not 0, Ex is different from E1. In a similar fashion, nu xy equal to nu 12, Ey E2, nu 21, nu yx, right? Similarly, Gxy G12, right? from the macro mechanical to we are moving to micro mechanical. That means at the fiber level and matrix level, there are certain terms are there like terminologies, volume, density, volume fraction, mass fraction, certain things are there. So I just quickly skip some of the slides, right? So if you look at this equation, weight fraction, there is mass fraction is written in terms of volume fraction. Mass fraction and volume fraction, these are all not same. For example, it is same only in case if the reinforcement and matrix are same. Some matrices self-reinforced composites. For example, polypropylene. Polypropylene can be used as a reinforcement, can be used as a matrix also, right? In that scenario, the density is same. In that scenario, volume fraction and mass fraction are one and the same. Otherwise, because of the mismatch in the density between the fiber and matrix, volume fraction and mass fraction are not same because of the mismatch in the density, right? And this is the theoretical prediction of the density. This equation helps us say, we don't need to do the experiment. Theoretically, say for example, if we know what is the fiber, if we know what is the matrix, and if we know its density, and what is the volume we are going to add, what is the volume of fiber we are going to add in the composite, then theoretically we can predict this density of the composite. What would be the density of the composite? Theoretically we can predict. We don't need to procure the material, we don't need to do the fabrications theoretically. But there is a problem in the theoretical predictions because the theoretical prediction ignores the void content. Whenever we fabricate composites, because of the problem in the fabrications, it may be a fabrication flaw or it may be the person who is doing the fabrication. So because of that, there is a flaw. That means there is the voids are formed, and due to that voids, the theoretical density is different from the actual density that we can calculate. But anyway, it gives some rough idea what could be the density of the composites. It gives some rough idea, right? So of course, what would be the volume fraction of the void we can find from this, right? That must be included. And how to find it experimentally, the slides helps us, right? So this slide shows some of the difficult properties of the some materials, like right, yeah. uh, Previous, I mean, of course, here we are going to see major two things. One is the evaluation of the moduli, and another is the evaluation of the strength. For isotropic materials, very comfortable, only Young's modulus and Poisson's ratio. Here we have to find out longitudinal Young's modulus E1, transverse Young's modulus E2, Poisson's ratio nu12, in-plane shear modulus G12. This is the two-dimensional composite structures, right? If it is 3D, then we have to find out 9 components, 9 material properties, right? So in this case, so how we can, of course, we can make samples, we can do testings, we can find it, but that is a costly affair, right? So theoretically, how best we can predict it? For finding the Young's modulus in the direction 1, simple concept, that is the applied force is shared by the fiber and matrix. Right, of course, this we have come across in our center of metal discussion. So one, and another one in the direction 1, as long as the perfect bonding exists between the matrix and fiber, the strain is same. I think this one, strains in composite fiber or matrix are same. So using these two concepts, the Young's modulus in the direction 1 is arrived. This is a theoretical prediction. We don't need to just what is the fiber, what is the matrix. We know the Young's modulus of fiber, we know Young's modulus of matrix. If we know what is the volume fraction of the fiber that is to be used in the composites, then theoretically we can predict. No need of fabrication, no need of testing. Theoretically we can predict. Of course, it has some error. Theoretical prediction always has some errors. It also has some error, but anyway, it gives some rough idea, right? So E1, that is the Young's modulus in the direction 1, that is longitudinal direction. And in finding the Young's modulus in the transverse direction, we assume that the force are equally shared. That is, when structural members are connected parallelly, we term it as, we consider that the forces are equally shared. Forces are all structural members are subjected to same force, so same stress, but the deflection is the summation of the individual. The deflection of the composite is the summation of the fiber plus matrix. This concept is used, and using this we can arrive the Young's modulus in the transverse direction E2. So Young's modulus of fiber, if you know Young's modulus of fiber and matrix and volume fraction, we can find the Young's modulus of the composite in the transverse direction, that is E2. Similar fashion, we can find out the Poisson's ratio. So this equation that helps us to find the Poisson's ratio, right? If we carry out the exercise in a similar manner, we can find out the shear modulus D12. That also we can find out. Okay, right. And now we have found out the elastic moduli E1, E2, nu12, and G12. Now, how to find the strength? For example, longitudinal tensile strength, longitudinal compressive, transverse tensile, transverse compressive, in-plane shear strength. So 5 strength we have to find out. Say for example, in case of isotropic, we are very comfortable. If you do one tension test, fine, tensile strength. If you do one compressive strength, okay, fine. In some cases, both compressive strength and tensile strength are in some cases same, some cases it is different for isotropic. Okay, so in this case, we have to find out the 5 strength. Again, experiment is a costly affair. So anyway, we are approaching the closing time. I will take a few more minutes to wind up the things. So again, I'm quickly going through. So this empirical relations help us to find out. So I'm trying to convey how the computations or how the mechanics is the understanding or is the procedures, right? So longitudinal compressive strength, we can find out, of course, experiments, transverse tensile strength, transverse compressive, then in-plane shear strength, right? So there are, it's a 2D composite structure, there are 4 moduli and 5 strength. So we need to find out, right? Similarly, we can find out the coefficient of thermal expansion in the direction 1, alpha 1. If you know the coefficient of thermal expansion of fiber and matrix, we can find out, right? So for example, coefficient of thermal expansion in the transverse direction, that is alpha 2. Alpha 2 also we can find out mathematically, right? Otherwise, conducting, especially the question of thermal expansion, in India we have only few labs, we have the facility to test it. Say IIT Madras we have, and IIT Kharagpur, one of the, only few labs we have such facilities to test it. Fine, especially for composites, right? Similarly, question of moisture expansion, beta 1, beta 2, right? Now, okay, we have found out these middle properties and this strength we have found out theoretically, right? Now, how to do the failure analysis? For example, for isotropic materials, we have so many failure theories: Rankine theory, Tresca theory, von Mises theory. We have come across such theories. So failure theories help us whether the structure fails or not. That is for isotropic materials. For composite materials, if you look at it, maximum stress theory and maximum strain theory, Tsai-Hill theory, and Tsai-Wu theory, right? So these theories. So we don't need to do the test. By using such theories, we can conclude whether the structure survives or not. For example, if we apply F Newton load, we can, using such theories, we can calculate, we can compute, and we can conclude whether the composite structure survives or not. So maximum stress theory, it has its own limitations, right? And maximum strain theory, right? Of course, in maximum strain theory, there is some interaction between the stresses that is not there in the maximum stress, right? Then Seigel theory, it is similar. I mean, it was developed based on the von Mises theory for isotropic material. So this is how this theory. I mean, the terms, we have to find out those terms, and the procedures are there to find out those terms. And finally, this is the empirical relations proposed by the Seigel theory. So if we substitute sigma 1, sigma 2 and tau 1, 2, if it is less than 1, we can conclude that the structure, the composite structure is safe. If it is equal to 1, then we can conclude that the structure fails, right? So Seigel theory, it has its own plus minus. Similarly, Psi Wu, this is the criterion, and like there are procedures are there to find out F1, F2, F6, F11. So many terms are there, and if you find out those things, finally, this is the relations proposed by the Psi Wu. If we substitute again sigma 1, sigma 2, sigma 1 square, 2 square, and tau 1 square, sigma 1, sigma 2, and if it is equal to 1, then the structure fails. Less than 1, then the structure is safe. Psi Wu theory, right? So the limitations are there, right? And of course, the last one with this, I mean, last topic, not last slide, last one, last topic. We have seen micromechanics, then macromechanics. Those two things we have seen as a structure, whole structure, right? So how to find or how to conclude whether the structure fails or not, right? So for each and every layer, we have to find the stiffness matrix, and we have to find the transformed stiffness matrix Q bar. Then we have to find the laminate thickness. We have to find the midplane location, right? And then we have to find, of course, points 4, 5, 6. I'll come little later. After 2 or 3 minutes, I'll come. Point 4, 5, 6. Even 7 years, 7, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'll come later. So 8, 9, 10 already we have gone through. 8, 9, 10 already we have gone through. Right. So the thing is that to find whether to, I mean, for applying the failure theory, we need sigma 1, sigma 2, and tau 1, 2. To find sigma 1, sigma 2, and tau 1, 2, we need epsilon 1, epsilon 2, and gamma 1, 2. So epsilon 1 and epsilon 2 and gamma 1, 2 can be found out from this on-axis relations. This already we have seen. So finally, we need epsilon x, epsilon y, and gamma x, y. So that is what steps 4, 5, 6, 7. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That is what the steps, that is what we are going to discuss now. So like I think for example, if we take the isotropic, if a structure is subjected to an axial load as well as the bending load. For axial load, for isotropic materials, these are all the empirical relations we know very well. For flexural load, that is bending load, these are all the empirical relations that also we know very well, right? So the same discussions or same analogy is extended, keeping in mind the complex nature of the orthotropic or transversely isotropic material, right? So the thing is that the strain epsilon xx equal to epsilon naught plus zk, where epsilon naught is a midplane strain and z is the distance that is measured from the neutral axis or neutral plane, right? And where k is the radius of curvature. I think in strength of material we have used the term, I mean, we have used the letter R instead of K, but here we use K. For this, the classical lamination theory helps us to find out. So I just quickly go through. Since it is a two dimensions, there are 3 forces. Nx, Ny are the axial forces, and Nxy is the shear force. Similarly, Mx and My are the moments, axial moments, and Mxy and Myx are the shear moments. So using, I mean, what are all the deformations due to these loads or due to these moments, right? And from these deformations, we have to find out the stress. That is what this exercise is attempting to do. So epsilon x, epsilon y, and gamma xy, right? So this is what that exercise is. Classical lamination theory is used to find out, right? So if you know epsilon x, epsilon y, and gamma xy using this classical lamination theory, right? So we can find out, right? And if you know these things, then we can find the on-axis strain. If you know on-axis strain, then we can find the off-axis stress. Sorry, on-axis stress, then off-axis strain, then off-axis stress, then on-axis stress. Then applying the failure theory, we could predict the structure fails or not. Okay, so this is how the flow goes. Okay, so I quickly go through the slides. Right. So due to these forces and these moments, we can find out the deformations, and from the deformations, we can find out the strains. So because of the time constraints, I am quickly going through these things. Right. So again, I take a minute to wind up this one. Again, I go back to this. So using the classical lamination theory, that helps to find out the steps 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So once we know the epsilon x, epsilon y, and gamma xy, we can find the on-axis strain. If you know on-axis strain, then we can find the on-axis stress. Then if you know on-axis stress, by applying the failure criteria, we can conclude whether the structure is safe or not. Then I move to the last one, the applications. Of course, we all know it is applied in various fields: aerospace applications, road, rail, offshore, building, chemical, so many industries, electrical, electronics, especially electrical and all. People are trying to find out zero electrical conductivity and high thermal conductivity materials. So research is going on in several fields: mechanical systems and machine elements, biomedical applications, especially the titanium-based alloys, and consumer durable products and sports applications. I think this slide shows where it is used. More than 50% aircraft structure is made from composites, more than 50%, right? And some of the parts that are used, automobile door panels, so many automobile parts are used from the composites. Buses and trucks, cars, and other applications, right? Thank you for patient hearing. If there are any questions, I am happy to take it. Please. Moderator. Is moderator there?
Sir, I have one question, sir.
Yeah, please.
Hello. Sir,
Yeah, please.
for improving the interfacial bonding, will the coefficient of thermal expansion plays a role?
See, between you are asking a fiber matrix interface.
Yeah.
Yes, actually we have to consider one thing. What is the coefficient of thermal expansion of fiber and matrix? As I already said, if the difference is too much, and if the delta T factor is also too much, say simple example, for example, 20-year-old person is tied with 90-year-old person. If both are asked to do run, how 90-year-old person can run as fast as a 20-year-old person? So the difference should not be too much. Otherwise, if the difference is too much and if the delta T is significant, then the failure starts, because the expansion is different for different materials. You know, delta L equal to alpha delta TL. Delta L equal to alpha delta T and L. Alpha is if the alpha is is difference between the fiber and matrix is too much, then the delta L is too much. So obviously the bonding will be broken due to this effect itself. And in order to improve the interface, generally the fiber surfaces are made rough, as much as rough, so that the interlocking will be more. Yes. Yeah, please.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Sir, we got a query in the.
Sir, if two fibers are involved, how to compute this stress strain values?
2 5 those, yeah. For example, if we reinforce the fiber, for example, fiber 1, fiber 2, that is fiber 1 is reinforced, that is lamina 1, I think, and another fiber, that is lamina 2. I think actually I have quickly gone through that slide. If you look at this particular slide here, if you look at it, this one is graphite epoxy, this one is boron epoxy. So for each and every lamina, we have to find the material property separately. Actually, that's why I have shown one ABD matrix that helps you to find out. So for example, this top layer is graphite epoxy. Graphite is reinforced in the theta 0. In the second layer, boron is reinforced at the alignment of 45 degree. So reinforcement is different, alignment is also different. So we have to find out the material property of, that is the reduced stiffness matrix of the lamina separately, and then we have to combine. For that, I think actually we are using this ABT matrices. If you look at this ABT matrices, it has the terms of Q bar. It has the terms of Q bar, and it incorporates the terms of Q bar and the thickness. And using this, for example, whatever the force is applied, we can force or moment is applied, we can find the things. I think while answering your questions, I got one comment. This is actually a vast area to discuss. One session is insufficient to discuss the computations of composites. Anyway, I will try my level best to address the issues as short as possible.
Sir, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Sir, there was one more query in the chat box.
Yeah, please.
It was a few minutes ago. Like, can you please name some good fillers for improving mechanical properties?
Fillers.
Yes, that was the question.
For example, if we take the carbon nanotubes, carbon nanotubes helps in terms of ultimate tensile strength. The two maximum of 1%. So some other fillers are also there, like silicon carbide, right? So different. We have to see the first applications. What applications we intend to make the composites, and what is what is the expectations, right? So based on that only we can decide. For example, silicon carbide has one advantage, that is in terms of strength. Another problem with the silicon carbide is since its electrical conductivity is significantly high comparing with the boron nitride. So we have to see the applications, whether it is only for strength or for thermal conductivity or for electrical conductivity or electrical insulations. So based on the applications we can decide.
There is one more query, sir, similar to that. Can you list some fillers
Yeah.
to enhance fracture toughness?
Fracture toughness. we have to understand. I mean, especially the fillers based on ceramics. Ceramics generally exhibits the poor fracture toughness. Generally, ceramics exhibits poor fracture toughness. So we cannot. I mean, we have to avoid such materials. Otherwise, we can add the other than ceramics. We can add. In fact, say I think in some cases, aluminum oxides are used. Generally, aluminum has good things in there. I mean, some aluminum has alloys. I mean, alloy powders. They have good things. Uh, in fact, the titanium. So, for the particular, I mean, for we have to be careful for. I mean, before deciding, we must be careful. What is the exact applications of exact target we want? One thing I can say for fracture toughness, for improving the fracture toughness, ceramic based fillers must be avoided.
Thank you, sir. The next query,
Thank you.
the next question is particle size of filler material proportionate to strength?
Of course, that we have to check. It depends on certain things. For example, in some cases, we have identified like reducing the particle size doesn't help in improving the property in some cases. That we have to I mean, we have to do that particular experiment for particular samples, and then we have to do it. It depends on case to case. For boron nitrate in nanoform, or say for example carbon in nanoform, these things help in nano sizes. Some other things they don't help actually practically. So we have to be careful.
Thank you, sir. The next question is, if we add filler and additives in the composite, is there any change in the stress and strain matrix of composite?
Is there any, I mean, filler and
Additives. If we add
additives, generally additives doesn't bring any significant difference in the property, but filler brings the difference. Filler brings the difference, but that too has some extent. That too has some extent, not as a whole.
okay. Participant, you can ask if you have any queries. There are no more queries, sir.
Okay, then I thank Karpagam institutions for offering this. I mean, for giving this opportunity. I thank the principal, head of the department, and Dr. Vimal Anand, and of course the organizers, Mr. Krishnan, and I don't remember. I forget the other name. If I miss any name, I'm sorry. I thank the organizing faculty members also.